The big kid has been back to the big cinema, so it's time for another instalment of this. Hey, welcome back to another video, brand new movie review. Today we're talking all about the brand new kids movie Buffalo Kids that dropped in cinemas not so long ago. And do you know what? I'm quite pleasantly surprised by this film. We'll talk all about it in just a moment. Before we do, just a friendly reminder that these are just my thoughts, so don't let this dictate whether or not you're going to see the film, because you may go and see it and feel totally differently to me, and that's okay, because movies aren't made to cater for everyone. And before we do start talking about this film, yes, this is a new backdrop. This is the second movie review here in Brighton, and I'm still playing around with the backdrop, with the setting, with the way I film it. And you know what? Sometimes the backdrop might be okay, but it's so much of a faff to make it accessible to film in. So I'm still playing around, but I did decide to add a little bit of Halloween decor, considering it's autumn and October. So don't say I don't do anything for you. Anyway, without any further ado, let's start talking about Buffalo Kids. And yes, so many films have dropped in cinemas over the past month, but none of them really take my interest. And I'm all for going to see films that I wouldn't normally go and see just to give them a chance. But I know for a fact that there is no point going to see a film that I'm certain I'm not going to enjoy. And there have been loads of films released recently, but I just know that there's no point me going to see them because I know that I'm not going to enjoy the movie, enjoy the experience. But I was so desperate to go back to the cinema because it's been a little while, and this was a film that came up that was showing on Cineworld, and I decided to go and see it. And you know what? I was really pleasantly surprised by it. It was produced by Warner Bros, which I didn't know until their logo came up. And you know what? I cannot tell you how pleasantly surprised I am by this film. It was a film that had a pretty basic plot. You know, two people trying to go and find someone, and they go on an adventure. That's the very basic plot. But this film really explores a relationship between siblings, which isn't something really that I've seen explored too much. Sibling chemistry has been, I've seen it portrayed in films before, but it's been more of a sideline. This was the main focal point of this film, and they really kind of took my breath away when they started introducing this character who is paralysed. And it was such a heartwarming story, the way that these two siblings bonded with this boy who was paralysed, and just formed this incredible friendship and went on this beautiful journey. And they just addressed the fact that even though somebody is paralysed, there's no reason to dismiss them. There's no reason to shrug them off, because they're still a person. And I just thought it was a really beautiful story, a beautiful way of introducing younger kids, because this is a younger kids film, but introducing younger kids to this idea of everyone's the same. There's no reason, there's no need to kind of separate people because of who they are, why they're the way they are, and things like that. And this film just did it really, really nicely. It was actually quite a lovely film. It wasn't like tear-jerking or anything like that, but actually it just had a really sweet, powerful, beautiful message, and it did it in a really nice way. The plot was quite basic. It was quite a basic plot, but do you know what? It worked. There was nothing I could fault really about this film, except the fact that it's a kid's film and I'm not a kid. If I was a kid, I would have enjoyed it much more, but that can't be helped. And again, I go back to my point in the previous video, the previous movie review, of these are kids' films, and they make these films for kids just to enjoy. They don't make them for someone like me to come along and review them. And I always think that's very important, just to keep in the back of your mind, because as much as I can try and review this film, it is a film for kids. And if you're watching this movie review, the chances are you're not a 4-year-old child planning to go and see this film. That's always something you've got to keep into perspective, but I always like to share my thoughts on films. And I honestly feel like this was a really nicely thought out film. It wasn't rushed, and it was in memory of somebody who was paralysed. And I just thought it was a really beautifully written film. I really, really do. There was nothing else I could really fault about this film. There were a few jump scares, actually. I jumped. And when I think about the fact that this is a kid's film, I thought, oh, it's quite scary, isn't it? If I jumped out of my skin, I can only imagine what a kid's doing. But do you know what? I actually can't talk anymore about this film because I've summarised it all. I've summarised my thoughts. It is just a beautiful film. It's very basic. And although the story goes where you expect the story to go, it doesn't take away from the magic and the message behind the film. And I always say, if you leave the cinema feeling impacted by the film you've just watched, leaving with a takeaway, leaving having, understood the message of the film, then I think the film's done a really good job. And I feel exactly that way about this film. So there we go, a somewhat short and snappy review of Buffalo Kids is in cinemas across the UK right now if you want to go and check it out. Before I wrap up this movie review, as always, what to rate it out of 10, and will I be buying it on physical media on DVD? Let's start. Well, I'll be rating this movie, I'm going to give it slap bang in the middle, a 5 out of 10. It was a really nice film, but again, it's a kid's film. It's not one that I'm gonna really not bother to see again, but it's not one that I'm gonna rush to see again. I'm glad I've seen it, as always, with every film that I go and watch. But it's a 5 out of 10, and will I be buying it on physical media, on DVD? The chances are no, but again, despite it having a really nice message, I'm not a child. Well, that can be questioned, but I am not a child. Do you know what I mean? And as much of a big kid as I am, no, I won't be buying this movie on DVD. And there you go. There is my thoughts on Buffalo Kids. Like I say, in cinemas right now across the UK, and in the description below is the movie plot, the movie trailer, and a link to my movie review playlist, which features every single movie review that I've ever done. Plenty more to come very soon. And other than that, I shall see you in another video and hopefully another movie review very soon.